What's good, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well and staying safe. Played Deep Rock Galactic Survivor for around 10 hours, and after playing, I kind of have a decent understanding of the overall gameplay loop and all that, and I'd like to go ahead and share my thoughts with it. To start off with, I actually really didn't encounter a single bug the entire time that I was playing. The only thing that I did encounter is that sometimes the collision with cracks in the ground felt overly exaggerated, so that became a bit of an issue, but it was something that I could get over relatively easy. Overall, how I would describe this game is if Deep Rock Galactic and Binding of Isaac had a child, and I feel like it does actually a pretty good job of it, especially for its price point of only 10 USD when it's not on sale. It also doesn't have a store flooded with microtransactions, so given that entirety of it, I feel like it does a pretty good job. From what I can feel, the game has around 40 to 60 hours of overall content until you have everything maxed out and have completed all the missions, although I still haven't unlocked everything, so that gameplay loop may go down a bit as power creep sets in. But I can say the difficulty difference as you're moving up in tiers and you're getting yourself more geared out and upgrades and all that, there is a noticeable difference between planets and different tiers of the missions within the planets, to the point to where you will have to do a little bit of grinding, but it does not feel overwhelming. Gameplay is chill, there's no real button mashing besides if you make mistakes and you start to freak out and try to figure out how to move yourself out of those mistakes. But having to worry about casting ability, shooting, mining, all of that, that's all done for you. All you gotta worry about is running around, and mining is simply running up to a node and it'll start doing it for you. Before I get further, of course, into the basics of the game, I will have a video out going over the full basics, so you don't have to worry about all that. The upgrade system in the game is very easy to follow, ranges from temporary buffs that you get within the mission and permanent buffs that appear to have limits on them on how far you can actually take them, and you'll simply level those up just by gathering resources that you get throughout your average play. But before we go further, definitely be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you're enjoying for all the glorious algorithm boostness, and hit the subscribe button if you do want to see further review videos and such like that. Touching back onto the mining though, there is a bit of sticky targeting when it comes to it. Sometimes when you're running through the map, you'll just start mining things if you get too close to it, and it can create a bit of a problem. The gameplay loop is about what you would expect from any game within the field. Every class has their own set of weapons. You can choose up to 4 different weapons, and you'll get them based on the level you're at. Of course, they'll become easier as you progress through the game and such, but it leaves some room for you to be able to make different combos and create different playstyles with it, which is a nice little touch. Every dwarf, as they're called, but more or less we'll call them classes, will have 3 different subclasses, but the real difference between them is the traits and the starting weapon. Everything else is more or less the same, so you'll more or less tune to those types of situations and what you would find a preference to. And I will have guide videos out on each of the classes and their subclasses and going over all of that in time. And of course, you do have the standard stuff of kill mobs, move correctly so you don't die, collect items, and then upgrade your systems and all of that. The only thing I will make a complaint about is on the leveling system. As you're actually playing the game and you get a level, you do get very abruptly interrupted with having to choose a new talent for yourself or a new card or whatever upgrade buff. And I feel like maybe instead give an option for us to have a hotkey for it to do it on our own time, or be able to do them all while we get into the ship and we're at the shop, because it can create some breaks in gameplay which can be annoying, but it's not the end of the world. It's very easily to get around, and it's not ever going to be a situation, unless you've already put yourself in too bad of a situation, to where it's going to kill you. Optimization overall seems good for the game. I didn't have any FPS dips regardless of the amount of mobs on screen. Loading screens were short, although I don't care for the fact that you can't skip the loading credits in the very beginning when launching the game. Not the end of the world again though, but just a generalized complaint. And as for my PC specs, I have a i5-10400, 2060, and 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM. artwork for the game is honestly, I think it's amazing, though I do wish we had a little bit more graphic control settings so that we could turn down things like visual settings and such like that. Nothing is too intense to make you go blind for, 48 hours, or it hasn't triggered any seizures for me personally, but I do feel like if you have a bit more of photosensitivity, that there could be problems within the game with the AoE effects that happen and the mass collecting of XP points at times. Now, if you're a fan of storylines and such, from what I could gather, I really couldn't find any, so maybe you'll find something. I personally don't care about lore, so I don't really go out of my way to do it, but it's nothing that's visually presented up front to you. So if you're somebody that likes to play games for lore and such, this might be a bit of a turnoff for you. Some things that I would like to see in the game that I don't see in the game would be an endless mode with scaling mobs that simply scale with things like movement speed, HP, damage, also the amount of mobs on screen, whether that just be down to mini bosses / main bosses or more overall mobs. And of course the leveling system would scale endlessly as well for the temporary buffs. Speaking on the buffs that you can receive, I would also like to see the perma upgrade system scale endlessly as well for stats that would be capable of going past 100%. I'd also like to see later cheap expansion packs ranging between $2 and $5 that would include things like cosmetics, new levels, weapons, classes, new upgrade systems, or upgrades that we can do, essentially, the individual stats, different enemy types, different enemy skins, and other things of the sort that you would be able to put into the game. And I would not like to see a season pass or a paid shop or anything like that, because I feel like that can get a little carried away. But as long as the content that is within the $2 to $5 expansion pack is comparable to what the $10 base game that we actually pay, then I think that's overall a really good idea. And of course, not having just cosmetics in with the expansion, just make an expansion of cosmetics, not something like that. You can include them into it, but there needs to be more substance within the expansions themselves. My final thoughts on the game is, if you enjoy a top-down grind-based game that doesn't require you to button mash like crazy, I do think you'll enjoy it, especially for its price point. It's also a very lightweight game on your computer, not only in hardware specs required, but also in the amount of space it'll take up. It was under a 2 gig game for me to install at the time of doing it, so in reinstalling it isn't going to be a horrible experience. And the overall value to gameplay that you get, I feel like won't leave you feeling like you wasted your time and your money. Now, do I think this is going to be a 10,000 hour game? Not in its current state, but it could have some possibility for very niche people to enjoy it for a 10,000 hour, with one of the biggest things adding in an endless mode. But if you have played the game, let me know in the comments below your thoughts and opinion. If you haven't played the game, let me know your thoughts and opinions on whether you are thinking of picking it up, if you're not thinking of picking it up, and why you're not thinking of picking it up as well. But I do hope you all take care, stay safe, stay humble, be open, and as always, never stop searching. Peace, everybody.